So while Ben is hard at work updating all those awesome features within the build and getting ready to teach you guys that, you and I are going to talk about your GDD and make sure that your one-page GDD is fully up to date. And I'm going to be using Darkest Dungeon as an example along with my own GDD, my one-page GDD that I've created that you guys have already looked at. So let's jump in and get started. If you don't have it already, we have a template that we've uploaded. We completed down to game moment. Now we're going to go through these following sections and talk about those. I just want to point out a few of the important parts. So game summary, here we've got a game summary. It's basically summarizing a lot of what we've got in this main area. I'm saying it's an RPG, it's got humor, and a little bit of flavor, a little bit of story-ish kind of flavor I've written in there as well. You don't have to go into a lot of detail at story at this stage, or mechanics at this stage. It's just so someone can read the summary and know, aha, that's what sort of game you are creating. It's game summary. And then underneath summary, we have core player experience. Let me just make this nice and big for you guys so you can see what I'm talking about here. Core player experience, which we've talked about already in one of our videos. We are going for funny, absurd, comedic. You might be going for serious, and you might be going for intellectual. You might be going for frantic, whatever your experience is, to write in there. And then the central theme, let me introduce that to you guys. This is more to do with the story flavor. It's about the world. It's about what the player is trying to accomplish, about what your goals are. And I've created for you guys ideas for RPG story themes. A lot of these I've thought up myself from, the zillions of RPGs that I've played over the years. And I've also grabbed some stuff from the internet, some lists. There's some great lists out there in terms of plots and themes. So there's things like the reluctant hero, the unlikely hero. What else we got in here? A world at war, conflict between two or more peoples, revenge. So let's take revenge as an example. Your story, your theme, your game might be about, the flavor you give to the player is something happened. One of your family members was horribly murdered. You need to seek revenge on the people who did it. And that's what captures the essence of your game. The important thing is with your story themes is that a player can turn to their friend and in a sentence or two summarize what the game is about thematically. If it takes longer than that to describe it, then they're going to have a hard time understanding your game. So for us, we're going for a theme of failure can't tolerate persistence. Basically, that means if you try and persist and never give up, then you will succeed. So we're going to have throughout our game the notion that you as a player refuse to give up. Story hooks saying, you'll never succeed, and our character saying, yes, I will. That kind of central theme that we think is really cool. It's a good message we want to send. And also the unlikely hero, someone who's underpowered or not the right person. And for us, we're looking to have a funny, clumsy, trying hard but not very good at combat and magic and stuff, farm boy who's going off to seek his fame and fortune in a way, but it's all about him being a not very typical hero. He starts out as a farmer. That's where we're going with this, and that he just refuses to give up. So that's our central theme. And then a design pillar. Now this is a lot more mechanics related, a lot more about what is your actual game construction, how do you play the game? And for us, we're talking about putting the player in absurd or funny or ridiculous situations. An example of that might be the farm animals have been possessed, or if there's been a spell cast on them, and they're walking around on their hind legs and they're talking and they're back chatting, and basically they're angry, but they're acting in a very humanoid kind of way. So that's an example of us putting the player in absurd situations where they have to go and maybe you have to go and reason with these pigs and goats that are walking around pretending that they're like, noble knights or something. Just making this up on the spot. But once we know that this is our design pillar, we can make things up on the spot knowing that it's going to fit. And I mentioned to you guys about Darkest Dungeon. This is an example of a fantastic RPG. It's done really well on Steam, created by a couple of buddies of mine. And when I spoke with Tyler, who's the creative director, design director guy for Darkest Dungeon, he was saying that his design pillar for this game is their affliction system. So basically in the game, you've got your characters, a party of four, up to four, fighting against the enemies. And because you're going through a dungeon, it's dark, it's scary, it's traumatic, each of the characters will suffer from psychological trauma, what they call affliction. So they might start to freak out, their stats might decrease, and that links to every part of the game. That's the foundation, that's the core of their game, is that design pillar of their affliction system. It comes through really well for their game. So for us, like I said, it's funny and absurd situations is our design pillar. And then anticipated remarkability. So these four here, this is really the vision for your game. This is the vision. This is why it's going to be special, why it's going to be different, why people are going to love it. Anticipated remarkability is a lot to do with the financial / marketing success of your game. Why is it going to stand out in the market? There's a lot of games out there. Why is yours going to be different or special or exciting or unusual? Why is it going to make people say, wow? And if you look at Darkest Dungeon, if you've played it, it's a good, competent, well-made, fun game. Their remarkability in my books, by a long way, is their art style. The art style is just great. Like it's really, it's super talented. It's well created, but it's different. It's very dark, which fits their overall theme, Darkest Dungeon, and there's this whole kind of dark flavor to the artwork. But it's an unusual art style. You don't see this a lot, and I think that's their core point of remarkability. So in here, anticipated remarkability, they might have said awesome art style. For us, we're going for comedy. There's not a lot of comedy games out there that I see nowadays, and not a lot of good comedy games out there, not a lot of games that are funny, that make you laugh, and it's tough to do. It's going to be a big challenge for us. Hopefully Ben and I are up for it, and hopefully you guys give us lots of input and ideas and feedback on how we can make our game funny and funnier. And also we're anticipating that the community created content is going to be a good talking point. So as you guys are going through the course, we're asking for people to provide any input they'd like in terms of 3D models or texturing or props in the scene, level design, story stuff, audio, music. So there's a process that we'll introduce you guys to at some point in terms of, hey, if you want to contribute, you can. But I think our game will be better and more interesting by having community-created content. And then underneath that, this section here is a lot about the function of building the game, where we're looking at when's it going to come out. We're saying our game will release 2017, and then the feature development priorities. At this stage, just have a guess in terms of what you think is the most important part of your game, and then next most important and next most important, so that if you run out of time or money, you know where your features are going to stop. For us, it's about combat, and then all the extra RPG abilities and stats that go along with that, and then level building and game progression, if I don't mess that up. And branching dialogue system, inventory, loot, usable items. So this is just a really high-level development priority flow that we're going to go through. And then comparative products. This is great, particularly if someone not on your team or not you is going to be reading this document, someone who's giving you input, or maybe someone who's going to give you some financial support or an artist, etc. You can say, here are the products that our game is like. And we've listed a few games down there, and I've talked to you guys about a couple of them already that we feel that our game is like. So that's the one-page GDD. And at this point, I want you guys to just go with your gut, go with what feels good, because it can always evolve. It's not locked in. You don't have to stick with it. If you don't have the template already, I've got a whole bunch of links in the resources section. So this is the one-page GDD template. Soon, we're going to evolve this into our full GDD, but for now, we're just sticking with the one-page GDD, so we don't try to do too much, we don't get too overwhelmed with creating documentation. Which leads me to the challenge that I have for you guys. You've guessed it, complete the remaining sections of your one-page GDD. Go through it as best you can. If you've got any questions, throw them onto our discussion section. We'd love to hear from you guys. And I've got a particularly important challenge as well. Share your one-page GDD with at least one person. Now, that can be in our discussion section. That would be a lot of people you'd be sharing it with. But also, it can be and should be someone who you know, a friend, a family member, a colleague, someone at school, who you can show it to and tell your idea to, tell them what it is that you're creating. That creates a bit of accountability. This is what I'm going to create, and then someone's there to cheer you on and say, hey, are you still creating it? But it also shows you and is teaching your brain that you need feedback and your idea is going to evolve, and it's not precious and it's not a secret that you should be sharing it. So that is your challenge. Complete your GDD and share it with at least one person. Good luck with that. Stop the video now, stop the course now, go off and do that. And when you're done, when you're ready, jump back into the next video.